Good morning, everybody. Good morning, panel. I'd like to just acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation as the traditional custodians of the lands and the waterways upon which we meet today. Pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. Quite an impressive video. Dave, do you want to kick us off by just giving us a few words of introduction about how all that came about?
Yeah, I mean, it was very interesting. I think it was a unique opportunity that we had to sit down with Modern and really create a clean sheet of what a digital mine would look like. And so we were able to sit down before any earth was actually moved, to sit down and line out what all of the applications were that we had that would improve the productivity and make the economic business case for this property. And I think that being able to have that partnership and sit down at the very beginning, have a seat at that table, and be able to collaboratively come up with a plan that is going to extract the maximum amount of value from that asset that's under the ground. I think that was a really, really neat opportunity for us.
So I want to, if I reflect upon the questions that I have today, they really revolve around two words. And I guess those two words are collaborating and digital. I think in mining we hear those words a lot these days. They're probably even overused terms, because there's a scale of collaboration and there's a scale of digitization. So I want to just dig in a little bit as to where this mine kind of ranks on those scales. Let's kick off with Duncan, though, and say, at what stage of the development cycle did you make the commitment towards a digitally enabled asset?
I think with Mansourah Massarah, we were introducing the first autoclave into Saudi Arabia and to basically the Middle East. So with that in mind, we had to ensure that our blending of the ore was going to be suitable to feed the autoclave, help our recoveries, and ultimately our gold production. So we started the approach when we did the BFS on how are we going to best manage the ore reconciliation, the mining of the ore, and ultimately getting it to the process plant. But mining in Ma'aden and in Saudi Arabia is not first world, so we need to bring on Hexagon to help us bring that technology and the automation into Saudi. So through that process, we started basically a clean sheet of paper. How are we going to do it? How are we going to put this system onto a contractor's fleet? So it was three-way collaboration, contractor, Hexagon and Ma'aden. Then ultimately, in addition to the productivity gains, how are we going to improve the safety of our employees and the truck management system at Mansourah Massarah?
And Dave, what did those early engagements with Ma'aden look like? You know, driving the alignment process and searching for those collaborative measures.
Yeah, I mean, it was very transparent, right? It's, and I think that's what really unique about the partnership that we have is we can sit down and be very clear about where the value proposition is for the products that we offer, how to reduce the dilution, how to optimize the value of the asset in the ground, and then how to manage the extraction activities that happen on a day-to-day basis in a manner that ensures that there's no value leakage from the process. And I think being able to sit down and say, okay, here's the limitations of the system, here's what we can do, here's what we can't do, and then on the operational side, having Modern be able to say, okay, we can accommodate that limitation on the technology, on the digitization portion of it by doing this other process. The give and take is something that I think is really exceptional.
At Worley, we do quite a lot of partnership alignment programs. We pride ourselves on being a collaborative sort of relationship-based company, and it sounds like that's what we're talking about. We, in my own experience, it's quite relatively easy to get alignment with C-suites. Get around a table and quickly align around value. But people, processes, and systems embedded in respective organizations can sometimes work against that. How did Hexagon meet and face some of those challenges?
I mean, that's something that we do all the time. If you think about some of our safety products, like our operator fatigue system, the technology is a very small component of that, and where the value actually is unlocked is when you do that transformation within the organization and you get them to think about that safety journey that they're taking. And so we approach all of our customers the same way in terms of approaching it as a journey. I'm not interested in a transaction of selling a product. I'm entering in a partnership for 10 or 20 years while you're extracting this resource out of the ground. And that's the way we approach it. And I think that difference in terms of the approach is conveyed very clearly to the people that are actually doing the work, because they see us there. We're physically present on the mine sites every single day and supporting them and helping them on their journey.
Duncan, Marden has some very rigorous gate review processes. You're a big company, you're competing for capital between your various business lines. How did this collaborative arrangement and maybe even the digitally enabled asset, how did that contribute towards risk mitigation when you think about reaching FID and beyond?
I'll just first start with Marden's, as you mentioned, growth capital. We've got the phosphate business, who are building FOS3, continuing to be in the top 3 of fertiliser producers in the world. Then we've got the aluminium business, then gold. So from our point of view, yes, we have to promote to the board that what we are going to mine, we've eliminated as many risks as possible. So in terms of the risk mitigation at Mansourah Massarah, it's a relatively low-grade open pit mine, but with the complexity of the organics for the autoclave. So we used this system to help us minimise the risk for dilution. And this collaborative approach with Hexagon was very different to the EPC contract we had building the plant. That was a hard money contract, very contractual, whereas the relationship with Hexagon was we sat down, we knew what we wanted, but we didn't know how to get there. So we set the ground, and over the last 2 or 3 years we're getting into the position now where we're getting real-time benefit and ultimately decreasing the risk with our reconciliation, our dilution, and the safety and the real-time monitoring of our fleet.
Yeah, I think the concept that is important to understand is that what the digital tools provide is a reduction in uncertainty. And if you have a reduction in uncertainty, then that allows you to mitigate the risks a lot more effectively.
So Hexagon, multinational company, operating across multiple sectors and industries. You see a lot of best practice out there, and you embed learnings, and the mining industry is not well known for its early adoption of innovation. So, how do you bring that best practice to companies like Marden, to our mining industry, and some lessons learned from some of the other industries that you serve?
I mean, that's a great question. The reality is that any system that you're going to develop, you're going to be taking in feedback and requests for enhancement from your customers. And when you have a broad enough customer base, then those enhancements and requests become really best practices of your competitors. And so in this situation, we're able to take our standard systems off the shelf. They embody the best practices of the entire industry, and it allows for a company like Marden then to leapfrog and to make that step change in productivity that would otherwise not be possible if they were trying to develop something on their own.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And at Worley we have, I don't know if we coined the phrase, but we certainly adopted it, that projects move at the pace of trust. That's particularly true where innovation is involved. And Duncan, if I could ask you, how did you drive that alignment process within within Marden. When how did you build that trust within your team to lean on your partner here when times got a little bit tough?
I have to admit, I think my underground contracting experience helped me to align various contractors at the mine site. As I just mentioned, we had an EPCM hard money contract in the process plant, but when I started speaking with Hexagon, I had the feeling that I could approach them directly saying, this is my vision, how are we going to do it? Dave and his crew were totally open to, okay, this is how we're going to do it. We never discussed costs. We just discussed the vision of what we wanted to do, and we've still got a lot of things in the pipeline for Mintzaromasara and the future development. So really it is about open communication and understanding what Hexagon can do for us, and also what Marden can do for Hexagon to get the systems into Saudi, get the infrastructure into Saudi for these systems to work. And one of the issues we found with, it's not Hexagon's issue, is we can put all the digitisation and automation in the world, but if we don't have the backbone of a good data signal and system at these mines, everything fails. So we've learnt the hard way at Mintzaromasara, making sure our backbone is right for these systems to work.
You've both mentioned value, and Duncan, you've mentioned that you have a complex asset, right, with a variable ore body and multiple pits and a plant that's relatively sensitive. So tell me about how this collaboration journey and the digitally enabled asset has helped to not only extract but also protect value.
I'll start with, when we first looked at this system, the main aim firstly was, how are we going to minimise our dilution? Because of not only the grade but the organics of the ore body. So Hexagon through the system, now we've got direct monitoring of the waste and the ore polygons in the open pit, so we know what we're mining and where we're going to truck it. Then we've got real-time monitoring of our live stockpiles feeding the ROM. Further to that, we've got the fleet management system, which is helping with the two pits, the traffic management of those trucks going to the various ROMs and the various fingers. We've got the real-time data of the equipment productivity figures, the traffic management, and finally the fatigue management system of the trucks, whether the truck drivers are dozing off or going to the wrong location to dump the material. Has been a big benefit. We're only about 4 to 6 months into the data collection of seeing the productivity, so I hope by the next 6 months we'll have 12 months worth of data to see the full gain that we've realised from the Hexagon system and how we're minimising our dilution.
And certainly protected any downside risk along the way, I would imagine. David, this collaboration journey, the collaboration approach, mining industry is not well known for it. We talk quite a lot about it, but we're not well known for it. What would you say to encourage maybe those in the room about taking a step of faith as the one that you've described here?
I mean, the products and the solutions that we provide to the industry in a digital mining context, both Hexagon and our competitors, are products that stay in your ecosystem for a long period of time. And so if you're approaching it as a mining company, that you're in a transactional manner, that you're just going to buy something and then just use it and not partner with the vendor, then you're missing a huge opportunity. And I think that's something that's really important to keep in mind. I think the other thing is that as you approach that partnership and you identify opportunities for improvement with that partner, as a mining company, it's necessary to keep a through cycle approach to that, right? Because oftentimes what we see is that the mining companies, when there's a downturn, then they will shut down their technology investments. And that's not useful for the entire industry, and it's certainly not useful to the mining companies themselves. So those would be the two lessons. Is number one, understand that you're entering into a partnership for a long period of time. And number two, understand that the value that you're able to extract from that is a function of your through cycle mentality and continuing to invest in the technology in the long term.
Duncan, I'll draw this to a close with you. I think give you the right of the last word. As you think about the journey, and I know that Martin has some bold expansion plans, has this built confidence in you and your team, your organization, as to how you will engage and use digitally enabled assets in the future, and what's your view on that?
Martin has got some extremely high targets for us to attain by 2030 and 2040. I need to double my gold production by 2030. FOS3, adding another 1 million tonnes of fertiliser, aluminium is going to grow. But from my point of view, I've spoken with Hexagon on how am I going to digitise and automate my future operations. Not only at Masura Masara open pits, our strategy team are working on the feasibility study for a number of satellite pits that are 10 to 20 k's away. So I'm speaking with Hexagon on how are we going to automate that system to take the human factor out and have autonomous trucks running between those. In addition to that, a little bit early to say how good it is, but we are drilling at depth underneath Masura Masara at this stage. We want to have a fully digitised, somewhat automated underground operations when we go down the hole. Further to that, we're in the final stages of our next BFS for Arajum, which will be double the size in terms of tonnes moved compared to Masura Masara. So what we're learning here, we want to replicate over at Arajum. Be double the fleet size, and although not as complex ore body, we need to have the systems in place so when we install them at Arajum, they are up and running. I just want to add from a safety point of view, the last time we checked at our mines, we had 22 different nationalities on our mine site. So the education, the training, English and Arabic are not they're not their first languages. So we have to, although make the systems quite complex, the operation and the training has to be very simple. So not only do we need a smart mine, we need a simple mine so our workforce can understand and use those facilities.
Well, I want to thank you both for your time, for the generosity that you've shown us today, and thank you for giving us those insights. We wish you luck on the journey, and let the record show we ended this bang on time. Thank you to everybody.